Right, let's get straight into it. Today we're unpacking a highly complex mechanical analysis of systemic marginalization by forensically examining a source document known as the Sophia Protocol. Whether you're into politics, tech, or data privacy, this is a seriously fascinating read. It doesn't frame itself as some political manifesto. Instead, it acts as a purely logical, zero-bias diagnostic engine. It basically claims to strip away all the political spin so we can look strictly at data, architecture, and infrastructure.
We're going to treat this explainer like a system boot sequence. We'll objectively review the text's 5 core phases, starting with the diagnostic core, moving through the vectors of containment and historical precedents, looking at their mortality projections, and finally, examining what the document proposes as a decentralized defense. Let's boot it up.
Phase 1. The diagnostic core. To really grasp this, we have to understand the protocol's operating premise. The text introduces a foundational concept that it calls managed attrition. The core argument here is that modern exclusion, well, it doesn't look like mass roundups or explicit, loud violence. It's much quieter. It's bureaucratic starvation. It's an environment engineered to be so administratively and medically hostile that a targeted demographic is essentially forced into concealment, flight, or total collapse.
There's a quote in the document that brilliantly captures this forensic approach. "I do not look at what the politicians say on television. I monitor the infrastructure of enforcement." It's all about ignoring the noise of public debate to look strictly at the underlying mechanics, databases, IDs, and architectural realignments.
Moving into Phase 2, the vectors of containment. Now, this is where the protocol maps out exactly how this infrastructure supposedly locks into place over the next decade. The text projects a rather chilling chronological blueprint spanning from 2028 to 2036. It breaks the timeline down into 4 specific vectors. It starts with medical interdiction, meaning the dismantling of NHS adult care, followed by legal deconstruction, spatial containment, and ultimately ending with total socioeconomic asphyxiation by 2036.
Let's zoom in on spatial containment for a second. The document predicts a checkpoint reality by 2033. Imagine this. If your digital ID flags an anomaly against a strict binary standard, you are denied seamless access to basic public facilities. Instead, biometric mismatches mathematically lock you out, funneling individuals into heavily monitored, isolated third spaces.
And they model this progression as a sequential containment pipeline. The idea is that once this underlying architecture is fully built and stress-tested on the trans population through administrative erasure, it doesn't just stop, it simply expands its target parameters to other LGBTQIA groups, pushing relentlessly towards total social control.
This brings us to a crucial point, one that should honestly make anyone interested in data privacy pause. The true threat isn't one specific law, it's database alignment. The author argues that the moment health data, passport offices, and tax systems merge using an unalterable birth-sex key, that is the mathematical point of no return. The trap snaps shut.
Phase 3 takes us back in time. Historical parallels to 1933. Let's see how the document uses the administrative preconditions of the Weimar to Nazi transition as a historical baseline.
The text draws a very direct mechanical line from the past to the present. It compares the 1933 destruction of the Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin, which was a leading archive on transgender healthcare, to the current UK trajectory. Specifically, it cites the Cass Review and the dismantling of affirmative care under the label of it being unscientific.
The argument here is that just like the 1930s, rights aren't being repealed with dramatic sweeping bans. That's too loud. Instead, they are being administratively reconfigured. You just redefine terms within existing frameworks, like the Equality Act, to match birth registries. Segregation is enforced quietly, all under the guise of maintaining public safety.
Phase 4. Mortality Vector Projections. This is where we pivot to the cold, hard math of the protocol. To set the baseline, the text highlights a deeply sobering statistic. Between 2019 and 2025, trans youth made up less than 1% of the general population. Yet they accounted for 7% of verified child suicides in England. 7%. That is the starting point for their predictive math.
If this containment grid locks into place, the projected surge in casualties is devastating. Over the next 10 years, the protocol estimates between 2,300 and 3,700 deaths. And this isn't from direct violence. It's driven strictly by medical deprivation, unregulated gray markets, suicide, and severe economic displacement.
To put that into perspective, they ground this grim projection in a current reality. Wait times for a first appointment at adult gender clinics already span 5 to 8 years. 5 to 8 years. The text argues that forcing individuals into a permanent state of medical limbo creates an escalating despair that feeds right into those mortality projections.
Finally, Phase 5, the Decentralized Defense Registry. The author doesn't just present this massive problem. They actually offer a proposed survival response. They introduce a Python-based decentralized registry known as the Decoupled Vault. The text literally provides executable code to generate isolated, unalterable data nodes. These are local only, with zero reliance on the external web. They use cryptographic chaining to protect historical and tactical defense frameworks from state deletion or corruption.
The vault contains 3 core nodes. Node 1 outlines a psychological defense against manipulation tactics, like DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and defender. The strict operational response, keep unalterable logs, completely stop debating structural bad faith actors, and just systematically map objective facts right next to the false narratives.
Node 2 shifts to civic resistance. It maps out legal maneuvers to combat statutory attrition. We're talking hiding assets in neutral trusts, shifting resources to parallel economic structures, and aggressively utilizing GDPR data protection regulations to disrupt hostile state data gathering. And Node 3 details off-grid physical resilience. It prepares for a scenario of complete socio-economic lockout by outlining plans for autonomous infrastructure loops, deploying peer-to-peer mesh networks to bypass internet providers, building local solar arrays, and setting up physical mutual aid points. So bringing it all together, the ultimate takeaway of the protocol is this: modern administrative warfare is quiet, it's mathematical, and it relies entirely on systemic exhaustion. The destination isn't a loud physical roundup. It's an invisible grid designed to force either self-erasure or physical collapse. Which leaves us with a truly provocative question regarding the very digital infrastructure we rely on every single day. If the trap snaps shut, the exact moment these databases merge, at what point does participating in digital society become an act of compliance? It's a heavy thought to end on, but analyzing the source material really makes you look at the digital world around us in a completely different light.